Hi, my name is Jerry Gordman. I was born September 26, 1938, here in Omaha, Nebraska. My early memories, we grew up in Omaha. I'm a native of Omaha, and I've spent most of my life here, with the exception of times like college and the Army and so on. But I've always loved Omaha, um, and Omaha has been good to us, and it's my favorite place to be. Um, we grew up in my father's name is Dan Gordman. My mother's name is Esther Richmond, and they got married during the Depression. Uh, the reason they got married, my dad had quit a job in New York during the Depression, and he was determined to go to California to create a life for himself. And when he ran out of money, he would stop and get a job and make enough money to go on to the next city until he got to California. And he ran out of money in Omaha, got a job, met my mother, and made enough money to go to the next city. And he fell in love with my mother, and he proposed to her, and he said, "Marry me, or I'm going to California." And that's when they decided to get married. Um, I have a brother and a sister. My brother is Nelson Gordman, and my sister is Deborah Platt. Deborah lives now in California, and Nelson spends over half the year here in Omaha. Um, I'd say probably 7 or 8 months here in Omaha, and the rest of the time in Aspen, Colorado, or traveling. Um, the grandparents that I remember that we grew up with are the Richmonds, Sam Richmond and Jenny Richmond, and we've spent I have fond memories of them, and they lived to be well into their 80s. My grandmother, I believe, was about 90 when she died. Um, my grandfather and I were very close. We talked a lot about things like stocks and things like that. We played chess, and we had a good time together. My grandmother tended to get a little bit jealous of the time I spent with my grandfather, and it was very cute to watch. I went to Clifton Hills School, which is on 45th and Maple, and we grew up in the Benson High area. Not very many Jewish families in that area, and so we knew Jewish kids at that age, but not only through my parents for the most part, and also through Hebrew school. We went to Beth Israel. Initially, we were at the predecessor of Beth Israel, which was on 18th in Chicago, and we then went to the new Beth. We're members of the new Beth Israel at 52nd and Seward. That's where we first met, Jewish kids. In grade school, I was active in Boy Scouts, and I started playing music, and I was an Explorer Scout. I became an Eagle Scout, and but I really got active in the Jewish community, like so many of us did, when we went to high school, and we went to Central High School. And at Central High, I was a member of AZA 1, and met an awful lot of nice kids. And that's where I first met my wife, or my wife-to-be. She was a freshman and I was a junior, and we all spent a lot of time at the JCC across from Central High, and I thought, gee, that's a mouthy girl. And somehow or other, we were attracted to each other, and my first date with her was, I was 16 and she was 14, and that's when we started dating, and when I went to college, she she was kept busy by all the guys here, and I went to the University of Pennsylvania, and she went to the University of Texas. High school was a lot of fun. I met a lot of people. I developed my love for music, and I took lessons on the horn, and I was in the orchestra and in the band. And at that time, I got involved with musical productions from the point of view of accompanying them, and that's when we that between schoolwork, the JCC, the Jewish community, AZA, and music, and Linda, that kept me pretty busy during high school. Central High was a terrific place, and it was a terrific place for kids, particularly Jewish kids, because we got to know all the other kids in Omaha. Today, the Jewish kids are a lot more widely dispersed, which in a way is a shame. I decided to look at different colleges, and wanted to get the best business education I could, and made a decision to go to the University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School, which was sort of interesting because before I went to college, I'd never really been east of Chicago, and enjoyed college an awful lot. I was very busy in music. I joined a Jewish fraternity, and it was Beta Sigma Rho, and made some lifelong friends there, including probably my best friend, a fellow named Bob Hefter, who we're very friendly with to this day, and spent vacation time with him and him and his family, and he's been a terrific friend for all these years. When I was in college, my music even accelerated. I took lessons from the principal of the Philadelphia Orchestra, a man named Mason Jones, who was considered the best French horn player in the world at that time. And I was active in a semi-pro orchestra symphony there, the Winfield Symphony. I was in the University Symphony, University Band, and in a brass ensemble. It was called Jimmy DePriest Brass Ensemble. And we did college performances, and we were on television, and it was a lot of fun. Jimmy DePriest was a terrific guy. We had a lot of interesting things that happened. He is Marian Anderson's nephew, and to this day, now he is the musical he's the musical head of the Portland Symphony Orchestra. After college, or during my senior year, I asked Linda to marry me, and we did. And as we became, we married each other as youngsters. She was 20 and I was 21, which made us pretty young in those days. But I was in ROTC during college and had my orders, and in March, we got married in September of 60, and in March of 61, we went into the Army, and I was there scheduled to be in the Army for 6 months. I had a commission, and we were at Fort Lee, Virginia, and with less than a month to go, the Berlin crisis became a big factor, and all the people on active duty like myself were frozen and kept in the Army for another year. And so I ended up being in the Army for 18 months. And being in the Army was really a terrific time for Linda and I to solidify our marriage. We did a lot of things together, and that was before we had a family. And even though it was good for us to have that time away from Omaha together. Let's cut it for. I'd like to talk a little bit about my business career, and I may integrate it with some other things that happen along the way, but I had known for many years that I liked the retail business, loved the retail business. I had grown up in the retail business. Even as young as in grade school, I would come and help out at the retail store, and my dad was a tremendous retail entrepreneur, and he took over a small business from my grandfather and made it into a pretty substantial business, and it was fun. I liked the exposure to people, and I liked everything there was about the business, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do for a career. The idea for me to go to college and get a business degree was predicated on the fact that I knew I wanted to come back and have this college degree and this business expertise to help build a substantial retail business with our family. My brother also was interested in coming back into the family business, and the two of us were very close in age, and we both came back and went to work with the family business and created a multi-state company. The business, my dad was the kind of guy that worked very well with us, and he allowed us to make our own mistakes and gave us big responsibility. And as a result, I think that we felt the pride and the ownership in the business, and we were able to create a very big company. Obviously, along the way there are a few setbacks, but I think on balance we did a very, very good job. My recommendation to anybody in the future would be, don't do it quite that way. It would be good to, before somebody goes into a family business, to get work experience outside the family business. And I think that's one thing that probably would have benefited both my brother and myself. But nevertheless, we did go into the family business. And a little bit later, our first cousin joined the family business, and that was Bob Gordman. And we became a good trio, and we all had different areas of responsibility, and we grew a very nice business. At the same time we were developing this business, which was called Richmond Gordman, I started my family. My first child was born in '63, and that's Jeff. And my next child was born in '65, and that's his sister Randy. And my other daughter was born in 1968. And these kids have been our pride, and they now have children of their own. So we are grandparents 4 times. One of our children lives in Omaha, and that's Jeff with his wife, and his little one, who's about eight months old. And Randy is in Boston. She's got 2 children. She's got Justin, who is 6, or he will be 6 in June, and her daughter Jamie, who will be 4 in August. Sammy is in Kansas City with my daughter Lisa and her husband Doug, and he just turned 6 years old and in March, and both the boys are in kindergarten. The kids growing up, we had a good time. We went on family trips, and we got them interested in all the typical things that kids do, from Cub Scouts to dancing to all kinds of things. And my wife while our kids were young, she was still finishing up her college and going to school, and finally we decided that she was going to put all her energy into raising the kids, and it wasn't until that our last child was well along in school that she went back into the workforce, and I put her in the retail business, and we opened up a specialty store. So the name of it was Calico's. So she was operating Calico's while we had the big retail company, Gordman's, Richmond Gordman at that time, and it was a very interesting blend. At the same time, as part of Richmond Gordman, in order to grow, we developed some of the real estate in order to find the kind of locations that we wanted. So we would sometimes develop our own buildings. At other times, we would work with landlords, and that's how the real estate company got its start. While we were busy with family and business, I also got involved with the Jewish community and the non-Jewish community. Early on, it was more the Jewish community. I got active at Bethel Synagogue, which we joined as soon as we came back to Omaha, and after a while, I was on the board, and I became an officer at Bethel, and that was after I was chairman of the educational department, and then I became an officer. I was a treasurer and then vice president, and Bethel was very interesting to me, and Bethel went through a lot of transitions that I was a part of, including a transition from moving from 50th and Farnham to our new location out in West Omaha. During this time, I had stopped playing my musical instrument. After college, I really didn't have an opportunity to play because my business career kept me busy, and I traveled a great deal. I was probably out of Omaha about 2 months out of the year on business trips, and as a result, it was difficult for me to be in any kind of musical organization. So I let that drop. But in going to services, especially during the high holidays, early on, and this must be in the late 60s, I felt that there was something at Bethel that I wanted to try and accomplish, and that was to put the sounding of the shofar on a somewhat different basis. At that time, they felt that the sound of the shofar was to be dealt with as more of an honor, and it seemed to me that at the time that was the wrong way to handle it. I felt that because it was so integral and so important in the service, that it was important to have it done properly. So I, never having tried the shofar, I called Rabbi Katz one day and asked him if I could play the shofar. He said, well, why not? Why don't you come down and play it for us? And so I came down to his home and played the shofar for his wife and him. This was the first time I had picked up the shofar, and he liked what he heard, and I've been playing the shofar ever since at Bethel. And it's been well over 30 years that I've been sounding the shofar. And I've had very interesting experiences with the shofar, including having a number of people that were so happy and have had good experiences in listening to the shofar that it gives me a lot of motivation and joy that I'm able to bring this kind of emotion to people. Some of the other activities I've been involved in are besides family and business, have been uh, things like being on the board of the Omaha Symphony, Opera Omaha, the Boy Scouts, and but probably the most gripping activity I've had has been as president of the Jewish Day School, which is now called the Friedel Academy. My first 3-year term ended in 1989, and then recently I was president again. They recycled me, and in the interim period after 1989, we had decided that the day school needed a permanent home, a home that would be new and modern, and it would be very good for the Jewish community. So my dad was convinced that through his charitable fund that that it would be appropriate to do a building for the Friedel for actually an educational building. And unfortunately, my dad didn't live long enough to see the building developed and built, but I took the lead in it, and we programmed and determined what it would be, and we have built the Dan and Esther Gordman Center of Jewish Learning, which I'm very proud of, and that houses the Friedel Jewish Academy and also the Reiches Library. Several years ago, somebody came to me, Dick Weiner, and said, "Jerry," he said, "I know you play the horn." He said, "We need another French horn in our band." And I said, "You've got to be kidding." I said, "I haven't played for years, for a lot of years." He said, "I tell you what," he said, "I'm going to call you after you get back from your winter vacation, and I'm going to get you started." So he called me, and about a little over 2 years ago, I started playing regularly with the Iowa Western Community Band, and I've been playing in the band now for a couple of years after not playing my instrument for decades, and I have a lot of fun with it. Terrific people, and it sort of amazed me that I can still handle the instrument after all these years.
Jerry, I'd like to hear a little bit more about the evolution of the shofar itself in your hands. Are you still using the original one you started out with?
All right. Well, the original one that I started with was a shofar that was owned by the Bethel Synagogue. And then I decided that I was going to get a shofar of my own. And so my first trip to Israel, I bought a shofar, and I have that shofar to this day. And it's a small shofar, and I can do all kinds of things on it besides sounding all the required notes for as done by Baal Tekiah. I can do actual songs on it, anything from Happy Birthday to Tchaikovsky, and it's very interesting. Then one time I bought a much larger shofar in New York on the Lower East Side in a store that sells things for Judaica kinds of things, and I used that for a while. And then I went to on the next trip I went to Israel. I found the first shofar I bought, it was in the Mei Shorim section of Jerusalem. The last one I bought was on Mount Sinai in a store there, and I found this shofar in the store on and I test everything I buy, and the sound of this shofar was so pure and so good that I had to have that one, and that's the one I've been using ever since. And I have a sort of a unique approach to the sounding of the shofar, and I guess more as an instrumentalist uh, than anything else. And I try and make it as interesting, and I skip octaves, and I think the development of the sound has worked out very well. Recently, I was stopped by our new cantor to be, who said that he was contacted by one of our by Howard Rubeck's son. This man is a professional instrumentalist, and he's also a composer, and he's going to do a composition around the sound of the shofar as I do it. And so he asked to get the notes of the sound of the shofar as I do it. And so several weeks ago, when our horn ensemble got together, I sounded out the notes of the shofar and transliterated them to notes for the French horn. And so it's going to be very interesting. My only caveat was that if he did the composition, is that he would give me a copy of the music. And so it obviously it's made an impact over the years. And sometimes I see that when it's about time for the shofar service, that the synagogue becomes just a little bit more crowded, and people come in, and people bring their kids to hear the sound of the shofar, and that means a great deal to me, and I hope it means a great deal to Bethel Synagogue. And that's about it. Recently, I have reduced some of my activities. I had resigned from several boards. I'd had a little bit of a health problem, and I eliminated the. I had to resign as president of Friedel, and I resigned from the Boy Scout board and from Opera Omaha, their board. Subsequently, I'm still helping Friedel in certain areas. I'm still on the board, and they requested me to come back onto the board of Opera Omaha, and I'm doing that. But the most fun I have today, aside from family, which is terrific fun, especially those cute grandchildren, is my playing my instrument again after all these years. We have a lot of fun, and in fact, we have a concert coming up in June that's actually going to be at the JCC, and I'm looking forward to that, and a lot of people in the band are looking forward to that too. And that's all I have to say right now. This has been a pleasant experience, and I hope it's been interesting. I'd like to tell you who you're looking at. From left to right, on the top row is Jeff Gordman, then Linda Gordman, then myself, Jerry Gordman, and there's Doug Lieb. And on the lower left is Danielle Gordman, and next to her is Randy Gordman, and on her lap is Jamie Monteleone, and next to her is Rand Monteleone, her husband, and on his lap is Justin Monteleone, and on the far right is my daughter Lisa Lieb, and our oldest grandson Sammy, who is now 6. One of our grandchildren is missing, and that is a little one who's only 8 months old and wasn't born at this time, and that would be Harper Gordman, and she is Jeff and Danielle's daughter. This is my diploma from University of Pennsylvania. I'm very proud of it. I was the first individual in my family to get a college degree. And I enjoyed myself a great deal in college, and I consider it to be the time that set the pattern for my future and for what I'd be doing for many, many years. I learned a lot at school, but I also met a lot of people, a lot of different people from all over the country, particularly from the East and Northeast, the kind of people I didn't know existed, and I enjoyed myself a great deal. I also have two of my children that also graduated from Penn with a degree in economics, and that's my son Jeff and my daughter Randy. My other daughter, Lisa, went and got her degree from Indiana. Jeff and Randy both went on to get master's degrees, not from Penn, but one from MIT and the other one from Harvard. So I'm very proud of my days that I spent in Philadelphia. I enjoyed the city and had considered my college career to have been very, very key to my future.